Hey guys, I'm going to talk about CLLS and ALDX. These are both thick float, good news biotechs. So I'm always worried about biotechs because biotechs are very event driven, right? And in our market, on these big pre-market gappers, there's kind of two types of biotechs. There's your low float biotechs that are completely hopeless, going to zero, often, are diluting. Stocks like ATNF, biotechs like that, SNOA, plays like that. But then there's also these thicker flow, higher institutional ownership biotechs that have like legitimate products, um, and will actually have will trade completely different charts, right? So CLLS and ALDX um, both fall into this thicker flow, higher IO category. But when it comes to like high IO, the way I always think about it is what's the news. Institutions will buy on good news, all right? Um, so the news is significant in their buying decisions, right? It's not just high IO is a bad short. It's why could these guys come in and build a bigger position, and support the stock, right? So CLLS had amazing news. I believe they got $240 million up front. Major deal with a major pharmaceutical company. Um, Very similar to a Lian. So Lian, LIAN, this day I was also very bullish, again, based on the news. I don't really care about the pre-market gap. And this one also had, just like CLLS, like this fake morning weakness with a huge squeeze, right? And look at the accumulation. This is just institutional accumulation. Just the volume, the day trading volume is gone. It's super super thin, and it's not manipulated. It's just some fund is accumulating shares. So we go back to CLLR, CLLS. There we go. And we see a similar week open. And I was telling my Discord room, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to short this. And then there's a big dump in market open. I'm like, oh man, like, sometimes these, if sometimes stuff goes down, but like I just wasn't convinced based on the news. I was like, I don't know. The thing about really good news on high IO biotechs is you never know where support's going to be and where the money's going to be coming from, right? Um, so we obviously get this crazy, crazy big move, and one of the best kind of long patterns that I know of, is essentially it's a fake breakout, what I call a clear out short trap, and we saw this on um, CLLS, and we saw this on ALDX, right? So concept's real simple. Shorts like to short high day clearouts, right? So here's pre-market high. Here's the high day clearout. Breaks it by 1 cent, and you often get instant confirmation that it's working, right? So high day clearout, big dump. But on really strong stocks, what you need to know is really obvious patterns like high day clearouts are often huge short traps, right? And again, with the news, with the thick float, with the biotech, with the high IO, I was very bullish this name. I did not looking to short this name at all. Um, and actually, instead of just showing you the Bookmap, I'll show you my Discord. I was telling guys, um, so here's CLLS. We get the high day clear out, we get the deep pullback, and then on the Bookmap, you can actually see the way I notice this work, and I'll show you other examples from this is the short trap go long section of my Discord. Um, you'll see that on these fake breakouts that end up soaking and rotating, what they often do is they end up throwing bids on the Bookmap at near the bottom to support the stock, so you get your big move. You throw up some bids, and in this case, right before the initiation, right here, so this right before this squeeze, they threw a 70,000 share bid here that causes the stock to go up. They throw a 100,000 share bid here while keeping the 70K bid. So this is them initiating the short trap, right? And big bids, especially on Bookmap, in other contexts, could be bearish. There's no guarantee that just because they're flashing big bids, it's going to go up. But in the context of a short trap pattern like this. High day clear out, deep pullback, shorts are chasing. If they didn't get in near the top, they're shorting these bounces. It's always in the context of the chart, and then the context of the bullish news, the thicker float, the biotech, big biotech runner. Shorts looking to get really aggressive because they know it's up 170%. Like you're adding factors in your head to make decisions about what this information means, right? So nice little high day clear out, throw up some bids. I wasn't too convinced by these ones though, but once these came in, those were just a clear signal for the squeeze. And then ALDX, I just want to point again. Here's your big squeeze. It pushes through pre-market highs, right? Pulls back, gives the biggest volume candle of the day. And again, this was also good news. Not as good news as CLLS, but still really good news. They got some licensing agreement that could be worth a lot of money. Not as great as CLLS. That news was like, here's $240 million type news. Plus an equity investment. This news was more about biotech licensing, but again, thicker float. By the way, thicker float's going to mean cheaper shares to borrow too. So you're going to get almost easy to borrow shares or super, super cheap shares. So a lot of times you get a lot of short participation in these types of names, right? So you get your high day squeeze, you pull back, and then you get your clear out. And the moment I saw this, I said to my room, I'm like, guys, if anyone shorted that, which is fine if you short it, but what you need to know is that they're stacking a ton of bids down here. Again, here's the high day clear out, here's the pullback, and they just start stacking. There's a thick, thick stack of bids from 229 to about 236, 237. It's just a thick stack of bids. And there were offers up top, but I'm always thinking, I'm like, hey, it's kind of mixed signals. I'm like, there's a lot of people stacking offers up here. There's a lot of bids down here, but I just know, based on common short traps on strong stocks, if you get a big clear out with big, big volume, you don't really like to see bids. You don't like to see big, thick bids at the bottom. That's why it's not going down, right? Probably 90% of those bids didn't even get touched, and this ended up being, you know, this ended up being a long. Interesting enough, I did actually short this right here, and I'll show you why. I usually have a rule about I just straight up avoid these, thick float biotech good news plays, but I got lured in by this price action at 11:26. And for some reason my Bookmap is in Central Time, so let me go back to this play. So this is something you see in low floats a lot, where sorry, where if you get a support swipe into a push, if this push doesn't go, it rolls over and dies. So that's so MDAI did that on SMX did that. But those are low float stocks. This isn't really a low float stock, but it gave a low float pattern. Here's the support swipe. I see the big push, and I see no bids follow this up, and I see it. I see the ask at 260. I see it start to stall. I see the buying start to disappear, and I took mid 250s on this, and I was like, well, I'll just trade this volatility pattern, get short mid 250s and risk 2.6. And it seemed to be working, but again, this is a lot, this is what really strong stocks do, is you'll seemingly get like a very low floaty long trap pattern, and then it does a real squeeze later, right? There's all these like, here's a fake out, here's a fake out, this is even a little fake out, right? And then it does like a big squeeze later. That's because, on a low float stock, this has like a 95% chance of going straight down, but this is like, you really have to separate the patterns in your mind. But I got really tempted by this price action. I didn't short it the entire way up, and I took a small loss on this squeeze right here. I just got out at 260 because that's where the offers were, and I knew that this was really bullish. Just took a small loss on it, and then I just didn't trade this the rest of the day. And it's kind of holding up. Like even if you get like, say you shorted like this push or this push, like a lot of times you'll get like these like 5-8% pullbacks, and then it just consolidates, right? Just like Lean, right? It just like just because it's not going higher doesn't mean it's going lower. You know, in the low float land, in low floats, once the Momo's gone, that thing is going straight down. But on these thicker float good news biotech names, it's totally different. Um, so yeah, interesting stuff. And then besides that, so this. I just want to point out what the Clearout short trap is, what the bids look like on the Bookmap, what type of price action, and some fundamental reasons why this type of move might happen to begin with. The only other name was MMPR, which was a classic low float stock. This actually gave low float moves. I actually thought this was a controlled walk down in the market open. I thought they were walking this down and they were going to squeeze. It's a little Easter egg at the end. I actually longed this and got out for break even, but I'll show you what I was saying. I'm an NPR. Gotta go back. There we go. But this is very similar to that video I made yesterday on CDIO. CDIO wasn't as gapped up as this though, so this was probably not as good of a candidate for this. I just thought the market open pattern looked decent. But very similar to CIDO, you got weakness into the open, you get your fake out, and then down here at market open support, and you know at 932, 933, just like CDIO, I start seeing the bids get stacked here, here, here. I go long down here, right? I get the move I initially want, but if you look at this, there's no bids following this up. So I was like, okay, I see that there's no bids following this up, but like as long as this keeps pushing, I don't really care. But I saw this push, I saw the low volume pullback, and then the only bid I saw was a 68. I go, if 68 starts getting taken out, I just got to get out because I see that there's no bid support. You know, and this is how low floats are. The big difference between low floats like MNPR and plays like CLLS is CLLS. If you look at the Bookmap, there's tons of bids. There's 20, 30, 40, 50K bids all over the place. There's tons of people, there's tons of money supporting the stock. Whereas low floats, you know, it could be SPRC, it could MMPR, it could be INM. Like, those are just like single player, single manipulator oriented tickers, and you get much different order books and much different price action on it. So, you know, I played the manipulated pattern. I was getting in down here, near 0.66. It squeezed. There's no bids following up. That's why this huge dump candle happens. And then, yeah, besides that, gave a perfect backside clear out. So I have this in my Discord painted backside clear out. Whenever you get a bunch of lower highs right next to each other, say lower high, lower high, lower high. And if support is holding like this, see how support's like endlessly holding? You endlessly hold support, you swipe the painted lower highs, you pull it back down, and then once I saw this pull back down, I'm like, it's going to crack 0.55 support. I'm like, it's going to crack 0.55 for sure. Go sideways for an hour, cracks 0.55, gives a few more legs down, gets all the way down to 0.5, pretty nice. So, yeah, MMPR a little bit at the end. But yeah, I want to talk about, last thing about biotechs. Good news biotechs like CLLS, almost all biotechs will have ATMs. So just because a biotech stock has an ATM doesn't mean they're going to use it, right? Biotech companies don't make money, so it's common business practice for a biotech stock to have an ATM, even if it's even on legit companies. So legit companies that will, and a lot of times you'll see that they don't use them. Like you'll see if you track them for 1, 2, 3 years, like how much of this do they actually use? They'll use like 2-3% of it. Like they'll barely tap into it. Especially on names like CLS, so it's like, hey, the news is literally they're getting a $240 million plus more money later, right? Like that's what the news is. Like why would they need to tap into an ATM if their news is they got a bunch of money, right? So biotech stocks, very common to have ATMs. Doesn't mean they're going to use them. You know, if it's a low float stock that's a known manipulated, you know, something like ATNF, then you can have a thesis of, hey, this is a low float biotech that's worth nothing. the news is, a lot of their PRs are so meaningless. Like the FDA has accepted an application for our drug. It's some like it's some fluff PR, and that's and then you can have a dilution thesis then, uh, but uh, on these types of names, these like 50 million float stocks, where they have a market caps of 100 million, 150 million, you know, they get news that they're about to get paid $200 million for some drug that did some pass some study or something. You know what I mean? Like totally different situations. Context is important, so just wanted to mention that. So yeah, kind of lame. Unless you wanted to short MNPR, it wasn't really the greatest day for shorting. So or if you're a scalper, I guess it's a good day. But either way, um, yeah, that was today. You're gonna just have days like this sometimes where the only thing gapping is a bunch of you know good news biotech names, and and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So more information down below about my Discord if you want to check that out. And yeah, that's about it. See you guys.